Human clones, mind control, spider devices, 10-foot tall axemen with sackcloths on their heads, and villains who can teleport around a room dodging bullets, all part of the crazy world of Resident Evil Afterlife. Resident Evil Afterlife came out in 2010. I think, looking back, that this series was originally meant to be loosely a trilogy, and then they just carried on making them once they realised that it was a cash cow. Paul Anderson returned for the first time since the original. I'm pretty sure in my own mind that he was still creatively involved in the second and the third films. It's not a case of him just coming back to sort the series out. Obviously, Milla Jovavich was back as Alice, and Ali Larter returned as well to play Claire Redfield. The story for this is split into 4 very clear segments. So we begin with Alice and her army of clones attacking the Umbrella HQ in Japan, just as it was teased at the end of the third film. Then Alice goes to Alaska to try and meet up with the people that she put onto the chopper at the end of the third film. Then we get the biggest section in the movie. I haven't timed it with a stopwatch or anything, but I'm pretty sure it's the largest. Alice goes down the west coast in a small plane and finds this prison in LA, which is just surrounded by thousands of zombies, and there are people who need help on top of the buildings, so she makes a pit stop there. And whoever's left with her after that, we then get to the 4th section on a kind of offshore oil tanker for one final battle with a villain that we thought was dead, but isn't. Now, this film feels like a much more fluid story than the kind of sprawling open world mess of Resident Evil Extinction. There's more of an A to B to C logic about the progression of events. And let me say right now, I thought this film was brilliant compared to the previous one. In my opinion, it's a real return to form, and it all starts with the very opening shot of the movie. We see this Japanese woman stood in the middle of a high street in Tokyo. She's just about to turn into a zombie. All these businessmen are walking past her with their umbrellas up because it's raining, that they're sort of glancing at her like, are you all right? But it's happening in slow motion, so the scene doesn't resolve itself very quickly. I guess we can imagine that this woman has just recently come into Japan on a commercial airline or something. But what really sets the seal on this scene being brilliant is the music. The soundtrack for Resident Evil Afterlife is one of my favourite soundtracks of all time. I'm not talking about the whole franchise here, I'm just talking about specifically this one movie. The music was done by a group called Tomahandy, I think. I'm not sure if this is all original music or whether they've just taken it from some old album they did or something, but there are 3 tracks in particular in this film which are just amazing tunes, and they absolutely fit the scenes that they play over the top of. And the first of those tracks is right here, that plays over this scene happening in the middle of a Japanese high street. So then after this, we get the big assault on what I call the Wesker HQ sometimes. And I guess this is the part of the film where you'll decide whether this movie is for you or not, because it's really out there. It's a bit far-fetched watching all these clones working side by side with Alice. The first time I watched this, I was a little bit concerned. I thought to myself, oh, has the series completely jumped the shark with this? But luckily I needn't have worried, because after this opening section, the movie kind of pulls itself back from the cliff edge a little bit, and this is as outrageous as it gets, this opening scene, but it's so much fun. I really enjoy watching it now. There's one bit where 2 Alices are literally sliding down a rope, and Wesker shoots one, but the other one makes it down. This film feels more violent than some of the previous ones. I'm pretty sure they all pretty much have the same rating, but I said in my review for Resident Evil Apocalypse that there's a very much a PG-13 feel to it. Possibly this film had the same rating, but it just feels more violent. It's something to do with the way Alice is hacking up people with a samurai sword. I mean, these are not zombies she's killing. They're actual human beings. They're soldiers of Umbrella. We get this incredible battle between Alice and Wesker to round out the opening assault on the Tokyo HQ. It's like something you'd normally see at the end of a film, and you needn't worry. This film is not front-loading its best stuff. There's still loads more great things to come. So if you've seen Extinction, you'll know that there was a Wesker in that one, but he was only in it for a couple of scenes. He was played by Jason O'Mara, and I've made a big effort to remember that name this time because I completely forgot it when I was doing my Extinction review. Jason O'Mara is a great actor, but he wasn't necessarily the best Wesker. I think it was a case of, Jason, just come and play this role. We'll put some sunglasses on you. We'll bleach your hair. Don't worry if you're crap. It's only going to be a quick couple of scenes. This time around, Wesker is a much more realised character, so they've had to make more of an effort to find somebody who can be really good at it, and boy have they succeeded, because they've got this actor called Sean Roberts to play Wesker this time, and he is brilliant. I assumed from watching him that he was an English actor. Actually, he's Canadian, but his voice is just one of the best villains' voices I have ever heard. Every line of dialogue he comes out with in this, it's so hammy. I mean, he's literally chewing the scenery, and I mean literally all the way through the movie he's doing this with his jaw. Like, oh, it's like he's chewing the actual T virus just to keep his skills honed, and those skills are so funny. I mean, he can warp around the room like Agent Smith on The Matrix or something, just dodging bullets, and I do find it quite amusing that he's clearly been taking these supplements, and yet they've worked for him, because even though he's monstrous on the inside, on the outside he still looks quite human. So whatever he's done to himself, it's probably been successful in his eyes, compared to Dr. Isaacs from the third film, who was much more a scientist, whereas Wesker is just a kind of intelligent soldier of fortune. When Isaacs was taking stuff, he ended up turning into like a walking kraken or something. It was this hideous thing. So Wesker definitely better at doing that, but I absolutely love this performance. It's amazing, and credit to Paul Anderson, because he doesn't overuse the character. You know, when you get somebody so perfect in a role, the temptation must be to put more scenes in for them. But Anderson sticks rigidly to the story. He just has Wesker in the scenes that he needs him for, and those scenes are more enjoyable as a result. Somebody else who's not overused in this film, I say somebody, it's probably more a monster, is the Axeman, as I'm going to call him for ease of reference. So this is this incredible 10-foot tall monstrous thing with a sackcloth on and a giant axe. When I say axe, I don't mean like a normal axe. It's like this massive square thing that looks like it's from a manga comic or something. We see him walking through LA halfway through the film, making a beeline for the prison. He's only in it for about 3 or 4 scenes, but that's great. He's not overused. This thing is not brought back for the finale or something just because it looks so cool. You know, it does its little bit, gets killed, and that's it. He's gone. Now, presumably, Umbrella sent the Axeman. That's what you would think anyway, but I kind of like the theory that maybe this thing just randomly broke out of a Umbrella laboratory during the pandemic and then made a beeline for the prison because of all the heat signatures and stuff. I like the idea that it might be a random thing, but I'm not entirely sure. But the final battle between the Axeman, I say final battle, it's the final battle for this creature. It's not the finale of the movie, but when this thing fights Alice and Claire in the shower room of the prison, it's such an awesome scene. I just wanted to applaud after it. I mean, you've got all this slow motion going on. The water coming down looks just as great as it did in the Tokyo opening. You've got characters sliding across the tiles, this big satisfying shotgun blast at the end which blows the head off. It's just absolutely brilliant. I would say there have been 2 fantastic monster creations across these 6 films. One of them was the Nemesis from the second movie, and the other one is this Axeman thing from the 4th film. Now, I haven't seen Retribution in the longest time, but I think they brought the Axeman back for that one as a kind of encore, but it just wasn't quite as good. I haven't yet talked about the best action sequence of all. I'm going to do that now. So there's a moment where Alice blows up this section of the prison roof and then jumps off the roof like Bruce Willis in Die Hard, and all these zombies follow her off the edge. And she's sort of wall running on this rope, I think, and she drops down into like hundreds of zombies, and she's spinning around like Uma Thurman in Kill Bill, just shooting them and hacking them and stuff. It's absolutely glorious. For my money, it's the best little action segment in the whole franchise. If this was in the first movie, I think it would have been too much, but it feels like it's earned. You know, we've been slowly building up to it. a moment like this where Alice just brings it all together for just 2 minutes of pure class. There's one bit where she's in slow motion, just running towards the camera, and she fires 2 shots, and they both hit zombies in the foreground. It looks brilliant. She's got a shotgun which fires coins. Now, I like this because it'd be so easy in a film like this to just have unlimited ammo. I mean, there's a prison with a building which actually does have an armory and stuff, but when she fires the coins and you see them in the air in slow motion, it looks great. And then there's the final slide under the door. I think it's the Luther character which helps her back in. The characters in the prison are very diverse. It's not entirely logical that all these people would be in a prison in a situation like this. You know, the film doesn't play it realistic in the same way that, say, Alien 3 did with the characters in that, and John Carpenter's The Thing. Because if this film had gone the route of those movies, then we would have had 12 prison guards with beer bellies, but instead we get all these random characters who've got no business being in a prison, like this hot British chick who supposedly is an LA actress, but why on earth would she be in a prison? It doesn't make any sense. You've got this movie producer guy who's a total slime ball, and he provides some more threat to the movie because he actually shoots one of the good guys dead at one point. He's like another villain, and he gets a great ending. It's like Benny from The Mummy, the way he gets locked in at the end with the zombie dogs. You've also got these new types of zombies who their mouths kind of open like that, and they burrow underneath the ground. So these characters can't just lock themselves in the prison and they'll be safe. There are threats from all angles. There's the movie producer, there's those zombies I was just talking about. There's the axeman banging on the fence outside. It's completely relentless. Going back to that part at the end of the film on the tanker, I love the production design with that. From the outside, it just looks like a normal ship, but when they get on the inside, everywhere's all white. It's really spacious, and the characters don't just fall down into the room where they end up fighting Wesker. There's this whole other massive white room with all these bits of machinery, and I think they might be planes. Actually, my memory's a little bit hazy, even though I only watched it the other night, but I just love the finale on this film. So now for my negatives, and the first thing which comes to mind is Chris Redfield. Now, I do like Wentworth Miller as an actor. I thought he was really good in Legends of Tomorrow. I only watched the first 2 seasons of that, but he was really funny in that Captain Cold role. Him and his sidekick, really entertaining. And back in the day, I heard that Wentworth Miller was very good in Prison Break as well, especially the first season, but I just don't think he makes a good Chris Redfield. Also, the odds that Chris and Claire would bump into each other in this prison are in the zillions. It's not even the billions, it's the zillions. It just would not happen. And then once they're reunited, the film doesn't really do anything with that. You know, by the time we get to the final third, Claire is not even thinking about the fact that Chris has returned, really. So the whole inclusion of Chris in this film just feels like needless fan service. If they were going to introduce him, I think this was the wrong film to do it. My other complaint is just the fact that there's not enough character development once we get to the prison. I think we jump into the action and the kills far too quickly. I had the exact same complaint about Friday the 13th Part 8, my previous review before this one. Once you get a bunch of characters into a bottleneck situation, I do think it's a mistake sometimes to then jump into resolving that situation or moving into the kills and the action straight away. Just take a bit of time to unwind, let us get to know everybody, let us get settled in, and then hit us with the big bangs, the big plot developments, the kills and stuff like that. But these are still very minor niggles. I do love this movie as a whole. One reason why they probably had to speed things up at the prison is the fact that we have these 2 opening sections in Alaska and Tokyo. If we'd had just one of those, maybe they could have afforded to spend more time at the prison. But as it is, possibly half an hour of this movie has already gone by the time we get to LA. I'm not entirely sure on the timestamps, but the Alaska section is probably the only part of this film which does drag a little bit, even though it's not that long. I mean, it's gorgeous to look at when Alice is flying the plane into Alaska, but I just don't think we need to be there as long as we are. Right, let's get to the bag of terror and find out what sort of score I'm going to give this movie. Got 1, 2, 3, We're not done yet. 4.5 bloody axes out of 5. I absolutely love this film. I think it's one of the best in the franchise. I'll be back soon to do Resident Evil Retribution. See you for that one. Bye-bye.